I never thought success could feel this hollow. Standing in front of the mansion I built with my own hands, I should have felt proud. But all I could think about was the boy my father threw away. That boy was me, Jason Miller. My father, Robert Miller, owned one of the most respected construction companies in the state, Miller and Sons. That name was supposed to mean legacy, strength, family. But the Sons part only really meant one person, my brother, Ryan. Growing up, Ryan could do no wrong. He was the golden boy, the football star, the charming talker, the one who could make my dad laugh even after a 12-hour shift. And me? I was the quiet one, the kid who preferred sketching blueprints over throwing a football. Dad used to say, "Jason, your head's always in the clouds. You need to learn how to lead men, not just draw for them." But when I graduated with a degree in architecture and brought home plans for a modern eco-housing project, something that could have taken our company into the future, he didn't even look up from his whiskey. He just said, "Ryan's handling the expansion. Stick to what you know." And that was the story of my life. Stick to what you know. Until one day, what I knew was taken from me entirely. It started when my father announced a family meeting. He looked unusually serious, the kind of serious that made my stomach knot. Mom sat beside him, wringing her hands, her eyes darting between me and Ryan. "Jason," Dad began, "I've decided it's time to hand over control of the company." "I'm retiring," I smiled. "That's great news, Dad. You've earned it." But then Ryan leaned back in his chair, that smug grin already forming. And I realized this wasn't good news. Not for me. Dad cleared his throat. "Ryan will be taking over as CEO." My heart dropped. "What?" I laughed nervously. "You mean we will, right? Miller and Sons, remember?" Dad didn't even flinch. "You're talented, Jason, but leadership isn't your strength. I need someone who can make hard decisions, not just design pretty buildings." "Pretty buildings?" My voice cracked. "I've been designing half your projects since college. You just didn't want to give me credit," Mom whispered. "Jason, please." "No," I stood up. "You're giving him everything because he's your favorite. I've worked twice as hard, and you—" "Enough!" Dad slammed the table. "Ryan's earned it. You'll stay on as lead designer if you choose. Otherwise, you can find work elsewhere." The room went silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat. Ryan looked at me, smirked, and said, "Hey, don't take it personally, bro. Business is business." I walked out without another word. That night, I packed my things and left the house I'd grown up in, the house I'd designed an extension for myself. The irony was almost funny. The next few years were brutal. I lived in a small studio apartment with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. Some nights I ate instant noodles while staring at the old Miller & Sons logo on my wall, printed on a business card I couldn't bring myself to throw away. But pain has a way of shaping you, and I was being carved into something sharper. I took freelance architecture jobs, small at first, restaurant interiors, remodels, even backyard sheds. But word spread. People liked my designs. Clean, efficient, sustainable. Before long, I was getting calls from developers who'd seen my work online. Within 5 years, I had my own firm, JM Design Group, and within 8, I was bidding against Miller & Sons on major contracts, and winning. One day, I got a call from a real estate developer named Harper Lee. "Jason," she said, "we're planning a new community project. Low-cost housing with premium design. You're our first choice." I smiled. "That's my kind of project." Then she added, "The only other bidder is Miller & Sons." That name still hit me like a punch. "But this time," I smiled. "Tell them," I said, "may the better son win." At the proposal meeting, I walked into the boardroom in a tailored navy suit, confident, calm, and a far cry from the kid my father dismissed years ago. When I saw them, Dad and Ryan, both their faces froze. Ryan looked uncomfortable in his expensive blazer. Dad just stared, his eyes unreadable. "Well," I said, shaking hands with the developers, "let's begin." I unveiled my design, a sustainable community using recycled materials, solar grids, and natural ventilation. The presentation ended with a standing ovation from Harper and her team. Then Ryan went up. He presented a generic luxury layout. All flash, no heart. Even before he finished, I could see Harper's team glancing at each other. They'd already made their decision. When the meeting ended, Harper turned to me and said, "Congratulations, Jason. You just changed this town's skyline." Ryan clenched his jaw. "You think this means you've won?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, Ryan, this means I finally started." From that day on, Miller & Sons began to crumble. Their contracts dried up. Their investors pulled out. Turns out, years of lazy leadership and short-term greed finally caught up to them. I didn't lift a finger to sabotage them. They did it to themselves. But when the bank seized their headquarters, I quietly called the realtor. "How much for the Miller & Sons property?" I asked. A week later, it was mine. I walked through those familiar glass doors, the same ones I used to clean fingerprints off when I was an intern, and now they opened for me automatically. The receptionist asked, "Mr. Miller, what would you like us to do with the old signage?" I smiled. "Leave it for now. I want them to see what they lost." 2 months later, I received an email. It was from Ryan. "Jason, I know things between us were bad, but Dad's health is declining. The house is being foreclosed. Can you help?" For a long minute, I just stared at the screen. All those nights I spent wondering if they missed me. All those years I wished for one word: sorry. And now they were asking for help. I typed back, "Of course. Come by the old office tomorrow." When they arrived, Dad looked smaller. The confident man who once towered over everyone now struggled just to stand straight. Ryan looked defeated. No fancy suit, no arrogance left. I led them into my office, the same room that once belonged to Dad. He looked around and whispered, "You bought it." "I did," I said quietly. "Figured I'd keep it in the family." Ryan cleared his throat. "Jason, listen. We made mistakes, but we're still family. Dad's sick. We just need a place to stay for a while. The house is gone." I leaned back in my chair. "You want to stay here?" Ryan nodded. "Just until we figure things out." I tapped my pen on the desk. "Funny, when I needed help, you told me business is business." Ryan's face turned pale. Dad spoke up, voice raspy. "Jason, I was wrong about you. You built something real, something I never could. For a moment, I almost softened. But then I remembered the night I left home. The way he looked right through me like I didn't matter. So I stood and said, 'I'll do you one better. I'll buy your house from the bank, and you can stay there.' As tenants," Ryan blinked. "Tenants?" I smiled. "With rent due on the 1st of every month. Business is business." Dad lowered his head. "You really are my son." "Yeah," I said. "But I'm not your kind of man." Months later, I drove past their old neighborhood. The Miller house looked smaller than I remembered. Through the window, I saw Ryan mowing the lawn while Dad sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. They saw my car. Dad gave a small nod, a gesture of respect, maybe regret, and I nodded back before driving away. Revenge didn't taste sweet like I expected. It tasted quiet, like closure. Sometimes justice isn't about destroying someone. It's about showing them what you became without them. And as the sun dipped behind the horizon, I whispered to myself, "Stick to what you know, huh?" "Guess I did, Dad. I built something that lasts."